Year 10 and 11, welcome to your revision on the theme of fate in Romeo and Juliet in preparation for your GCSE exam. So, in Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare explores the theme of fate by allowing the audience to be party to his character's destiny. And obviously that's the use of dramatic irony. In the opening lines of the play, the audience is told what is going to happen to the lovers. Massive important quotation then, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life. Throughout the story, the audience is put in an omnipotent, godlike position from the start, encouraging them to think about fate and to what extent our actions are free. If you're thinking about language analysis, then obviously we've got star-crossed. We can analyse that on its own, that destiny is out of the lover's hands and that they can't defy it, really, and take their life. So again, the idea that destiny has already determined the fate of the lovers. Very simply then, before we go into something a bit more detailed, fate in the play is evident in the prologue. The fact that the families are feuding, Romeo's attempt to come between Mercutio and Tybalt, the deaths of Mercutio and Tybalt immediately after the wedding, Friar Lawrence's letter never reaches Romeo, the timing of Romeo's death just before Juliet wakes up. Now, when Mercutio shouts a plague on both your houses in Act 3, Scene 1, we are reminded of the protagonist's fate. This bloody scene, in which characters are killed, gives us a glimpse of what fate has in store, marking the beginning of Romeo and Juliet's tragic downfall. This quotation, though, also links to the letter which never reaches Romeo, as Friar John is forbidden from passing through the village in which the plague has infected. So please remember that. The plague stops the letter from getting to Romeo, and Friar Lawrence claims unhappy fortune. Now, to go back to Mercutio's words, and obviously this idea of plague, it refers to the feud and the devastation that the feud causes. Mercutio curses both the families in his final words and wishes a plague on both the families. His words foreshadow the loss that both the families will soon feel. Okay. Now, again throughout the play, Romeo and Juliet see omens and visions, reminding the audience of their fate. So in Act 1, Scene 4, just before he meets Juliet, and that's not an accident, that's Shakespeare reminding us about their fate, but also structurally teasing the audience, if you like. We have this from Romeo. Now, we don't need to remember every word, but the bits in red we probably do need, or probably can remember. So we get some consequence yet hanging in the stars, some vile forfeit of untimely death. So Romeo envisages his death is quickly going to happen upon this night. It's Shakespeare using foreshadowing again. If we get hanging in the stars, it's out of his control. Look at that word, hanging. The stars reminds us of star-crossed lovers from the prologue and reminds us of destiny. And don't forget, Elizabethan society believed in fate and destiny and the stars. And then we get untimely death. The fact that he thinks he's going to die young and before his time. Interesting words. Now, sorry, I'll just put that back there if you want that additional note, but nothing too difficult. When Juliet meets Romeo, she has her little vision, if you like, or her little ominous feeling. She wants to know if Romeo's married, basically, and she asks the nurse, what's he called? She doesn't even know his name. And she says, my grave is like to be my wedding bed. So before Juliet even knows Romeo's name, she's head over heels in love and worries that he may already be married to someone else, in which case she says she'll die. Shakespeare is foreshadowing the way Juliet will die shortly after her marriage to Romeo. I've just put an aside there in brackets, not particularly linked to fate, but don't remember that. She will literally kill herself. She will also have sex with Romeo, and in Elizabethan slang, to die meant to have an orgasm. So just in terms of your language, be wary of that. But we're focusing on fate. Act 3, Scene 5, Lady Capulet echoes Juliet's earlier words. And she says, "Aye, sir, but she will not, and she gives you thanks. I would the fool were married to her grave." So since Juliet refuses to marry Paris, she wishes that she were dead, and these lines become prophetic, and it's another reminder of the lover's fate. Because remember, after this confrontation with Lady Capulet and Lord Capulet, Juliet is desperate for a solution out, and she goes to the friar, who then gives her the poison. And those words, look, "I would the fool were married to her grave," it's almost an echoing of what Juliet said in Act 1, Scene 5. "My grave is like to be my wedding bed." All the time we're reminded of death. Romeo, "Oh, I am Fortune's fool." So immediately after he kills Tybalt, and I just mentioned earlier, the death of Tybalt and Mercutio comes after the wedding, Romeo declares he is Fortune's fool. This suggests that fate or fortune is responsible for Tybalt's death and not Romeo. Romeo is discreetly referencing the prologue here, where the audience learns that Romeo and Juliet are fated to misfortune. But Romeo also feels Fortune is being especially cruel. He's just got married and he might be put to death by the prince. His words bring the idea of fate and destiny back into our mind. It's almost as if he thinks Fortune's mocking him, isn't it? I'm Fortune's fool. As if he's had bad karma, something unlucky. I've just married Juliet and this is what's happened to me. Juliet, now this is the last time she will see Romeo. So this is after the wedding night, after they've made love, and he's climbing out of her window, or out of the balcony if you like. We get this, "Oh God, I have an ill-divining soul. Methinks I see thee now. Thou art below, as one dead in the bottom of a tomb. Either my eyesight fails, or thou look'st pale." So it's a moment that is reminiscent of the balcony scene. Once outside, Romeo bids farewell to Juliet as she stands at the window. Here, the lovers experience visions that blatantly foreshadow the end of the play. This is the last moment they spend alive in each other's company. When Juliet next sees Romeo, he will be dead, and as she looks out of her window, she seems to see him dead already. Okay? So that is a huge instance of foreshadowing and fate, that she feels like she sees him dead in a tomb. The next time she sees him, he is dead in the tomb. Okay, so this is directly foreshadowing the end. And again, I suppose it's Shakespeare reminding us again of what fate and destiny has in store. Again with Juliet then, "O Fortune, Fortune, all men call thee fickle. If thou art fickle, why dost thou with him? What dost thou with him that is renowned for faith? Be fickle, Fortune. For then I hope thou wilt not keep him long, but send him back." Again, you don't need to remember that word for word, just to try and get a couple of words if you can. Now, Juliet clearly feels helpless when she says goodbye to Romeo. And they only have one night together, which again is quite tragic. Now, this quotation, "Dame Fortuna is the goddess of fortune and fate, and she is often portrayed as being fickle and unpredictable, because as a goddess, she could raise men up to great heights or cast them down at any moment." Now, in this moment, Juliet begs Fortune to be kind to Romeo, and reasons that since Romeo is so full of faith, then fickle Fortune should want nothing to do with him. Okay, make sure you pause the video there just to get that information about the goddess, to ensure that you note down that it's Dame Fortuna who she's speaking to, if you like. It's almost as well as if she is begging, "Oh, Fortune, Fortune." And she asks that question as if to say, "What do you want with Romeo, who is so faithful, and you're fickle, you don't need him?" It's almost as if she is begging a goddess to spare Romeo. Send him back. Back to Romeo then, one of his famous quotes, "I defy you, stars." So when Romeo hears from Balthazar that Juliet is dead, he says, "I defy you, stars." He does have a plan to make sure that he and Juliet end up together despite the stars. The heavy irony here is that his death has already been determined by the stars. So whilst Romeo thinks he's defying destiny, he actually isn't. He's just living up to destiny. Okay. Again, another thing that's quite tragic about the play. When he gets in the tomb then, Romeo, I still will stay with thee, and never from this palace of dim night depart again. Here, here will I remain with worms that are thy chambermaids. O here will I set up my everlasting rest, and shake the yoke of inauspicious stars from this world-wearied flesh. Again, you don't need it all. You probably want the last two lines. Now, by killing himself, he is freeing himself of his bad karma. The word yoke in the last two lines there refers to tying cattle or oxen or horses to a cart to drive them. So he is shaking it off and getting rid of it, if you like. So when he says, and shake the yoke of inauspicious stars, it's this idea that he thinks he's getting rid of his ominous destiny, which is to live without Juliet, when in fact his destiny is to die. So again, there's a heavy, awfully sad, dramatic irony about this little speech, because as an audience member, we know that his destiny is not to live without Juliet. Okay, so again, make sure you get that note. You know, this idea of the yoke, cattle being tied to a cart and driven. He feels as if that's how fate is treating him. Okay, and as we say, he wants to defy that. I defy you, stars. Inauspicious means ominous. Okay. Friar Lawrence, then. I hear some noise, lady, come from that nest of death, contagion and unnatural sleep. A greater power than we can contradict hath thwarted our intents. So a greater power. When Juliet awakens and finds Romeo dead, the friar tells Juliet that either God or fate has ruined their plans. Look at that, a greater power. Whilst this is not what I'm dealing with at the moment, I'm doing fate, not the friar. If you want my video on the friar, it is on my YouTube channel. But don't forget, it is important to remember the friar's role in the play. He kept the relationship a secret. He married the lovers and he gave Juliet the potion. So whilst he blames God and fate and a higher power, he to some extent is a little bit responsible. Fate then. No matter what the lovers do, what plans they make, or how much they love each other, their struggles against fate only help to propel it. It is Romeo and Juliet's determination to struggle against fate in order to be together, whether in life or death, that shows the fiery passion of their love and which makes that love eternal. Fate is also experienced by the audience through Shakespeare's use of foreshadowing. In Romeo and Juliet, fate is a force that neither the characters nor the audience can escape. Final word on fate then, guys. Their death is a catalyst for change in Verona. The dueling families are united in their grief, creating a political shift in the city. Perhaps Romeo and Juliet were fated to love and die for the greater good of Verona. Okay. I hope this video on fate has been useful. Please go back and note your quotations, your key quotations, where necessary, because remember, you won't have a text. It's a closed text exam. Massive good luck in your Romeo and Juliet exam. If you need any of my other videos, my Romeo video is very detailed. My Juliet video is very detailed. Please just type my name into YouTube. Stacey Reay, S-T-A-C-E-Y, and Reay is R-E-A-Y. And massive good luck in your English literature exam.